What is up, American fam? How have you guys been? What am I doing? What is going on? Why would somebody just tell me what I'm doing? Okay, guys. So we will get into all this equipment here in just a little bit. But first, let's kind of get up to speed and see how everybody is doing. Now, I see John back there in the background. It's Saturday. I get it, buddy. Got you. You know. Oh, look, there's old Jane over yonder. Yeah. Hey, Jane. Hey. No, that's okay. That's okay. Sit down with your tea and everything. You fine. So, I'm inside. I'm inside the house. So, let's just kind of say what's going on here. So, we had some inclement weather hit us, and I've actually had some videos, some content ideas that I wanted to share with you guys. Between life and weather and this and that. So we just had this snowstorm blow in. We're going to be snowed in for a couple of days, so I'm going to knock these videos out that I can honestly do inside the comfort of my own home. So without further ado, we're going to get into it. Today, we are going to be talking about getting started in tuning your vehicle. Okay, so what are we talking about when we're talking about tuning? What is tuning? Everybody talks about it. Everybody has a lot to say. But really, what is it? What are we trying to accomplish by tuning? Why do we need to learn how to tune our vehicles? Okay, why is this important? And what's the history behind tuning? Okay, anytime we dive off into something new, a lot of people get nervous and intimidated because they don't know. And a lot of people can get nervous and intimidated from just basically having no way to know for a fact if they understand the material completely. Okay. In this series, we're going to be doing a series of diving into tuning. We're going to talk about some common myths. We're going to talk about some of the hiccups that can happen along the way. We're going to talk about diagnosing and troubleshooting. We're going to be talking about all kinds of stuff. Okay, and we're going to be making several videos. Okay, we're going to be kind of in depth. I'm going to try to keep this series of videos down to about 30 minutes of video. That being said, we got a lot of information to cover, and we have a lot of questions. Okay, everybody has questions, so let's talk about these questions. Let's go back to the first. What is tuning? What is tuning? You guys ever been to a race car track or drag strip, anything along those lines? You see them cars and real high performance machines, and I mean they are just they gone, man. Throwing down some power, getting on down the road. Well, tuning, to understand what tuning is today, we have to look back into the past. So, what is tuning? We have to look back into the past to yesteryear. Okay, we need to go back to the orientation and the start of it all. Okay, tuning is what race car drivers have done for 50 years, 100 years, long time. Okay, tuning is taking off a stock head and porting it out to have better airflow. Tuning is taking off a 2-barrel carburetor and a 2-barrel intake manifold and putting on a 4-barrel carburetor and a 4-barrel intake manifold, aluminum 4-barrel intake manifold. That's tuning. That's tuning from yesteryear. Okay, and what we're trying to do when we're tuning is we are trying to make our vehicles run better, have more power, be faster, sound better, and be more efficient than what they were when we first bought it. Always trying to improve. That's what we're doing, tuning. Okay? Now, back in the day, we would tune with mechanical components. Like I said, we would port a head, put an aluminum intake on, put a larger carburetor, put a more free-flowing exhaust on it, headers, That's the way we used to do things. And we still do. We still do it that way. However, today, we now have computers. We have ECMs in vehicles. ECMs, PCMs, TCMs, BCMs, TRQs, and all kinds of other electro-digital nomenclature. So, what do you do with all that? Understand it's the same stuff. Okay? Same stuff. ECM, engine control module. Some people call them ECUs, engine control unit. Pick a name. BCM, body control module. TCM, transmission control module. You see what I'm saying? It's the same thing. Same thing. It just may be specific to an individual component of a vehicle. So let's not be afraid of nomenclature. Okay? Any case, I digress. So back in the day, we would do this. We would change camshafts out, and we would change distributors out, and we would, the differences between vacuum advance and mechanical advance, and then you had base timing and full timing, and you got all this stuff. Okay, and then nowadays you got these computers. So, what is tuning? Well, all we're trying to do is do the same thing that we did back then to this new stuff now. That's all we're doing. Trying to make our car run smoother, more efficient, have more power, all the things that we love about vehicles. Okay? So, keeping all that in mind, now we're not so afraid of it. Okay? What do we need to learn on how to tune? Okay? Well, we need to know certain knowledge in order to tune our vehicles. And what we're talking about in this video is we're talking about any vehicle. Any vehicle. It could be carbureted, it could be fuel injected, it could be, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's the same thing. Same thing. So, this basic knowledge that we need to know. Well, we need to know the basic knowledge of the basic internal combustion engine. How does an engine work? We need to know this. We need to know the internal components of it. Now, I'm not going to get into all that. I'm not going to start naming components and start talking about things. Those videos will come. I do plan on doing some engine builds for the channel eventually, and when we get there, that's where we'll discuss this that topic more in detail. Excuse me, I apologize. So, we need to understand that the same things that we were doing back then we're doing today. And to help us get over that fear of new technology and computers and programming, and to help us get over that fear, okay, uh, we need to understand how it works in a basic form. So how did they do it back in the day? What were they doing back in the day? And how does that relate from what they did back then to today? Okay, and why we, as tuners, as enthusiasts, as race car drivers, as whatever you want to call them, why, as we, do we need to know this? Why is it important? Because there's a lot of correlation, and there's a lot of things from that we did back then to what we're doing today, and the names have changed over the years. Some people talk to you about a double pumper carburetor. Okay, double pumper carburetor. Some people talk to you about power enrichment. So, kind of it's things about that. As in moving forward into tuning, we'll get into the basic understanding of those correlations, the name changes that have happened throughout the years, and how we know what we're adjusting and what we're changing in our tune on our vehicles. Okay, so we're going to be getting into that. So, all right, we need to learn. Why do we need to learn how to tune? Well, we need to know how to do this for a multitude of reasons, but for the average Joe, the average guy, the truth is you need to know this because it will save you thousands of dollars from mechanic repair bills. Thousands of dollars. You need to know how to do this because over time it's actually pretty sort of kind of general maintenance. You're going to be changing components, doing general maintenance on your vehicle, and things are going to be flowing at different rates, new versus old, and you're going to have carbon build up and all that stuff. And in order to keep that vehicle running and keep it going, you're going to have to adapt with it if you're not willing to, refurbish it or go through it or whatever the case is. So knowing how to do this can prolong expensive repairs such as that. And knowing how to do it allows you to keep up with today's motor trend, motor society, if you will. And I say that because, this information doesn't just relate to cars, it relates to anything with a combustible engine. Anything. So, so that's really why we need to learn how to tune. And the other thing you're going to see throughout this set of series is I'm going to constantly ask you a question, and then I'm going to back it up with an answer. And the reason I'm doing this, one of the things that I have found in my experiences out here in the real world, we need to learn to ask why. Because when we have issues with our vehicles and we're tuning them, if we don't understand why something is behaving a certain way, then, and we just fix it at face value, then the problem's going to keep reoccurring. Okay, we really haven't fixed anything at that point. So that's why I'm going to ask you, I'm going to ask, why are we doing this? And then I'm going to tell you why we're doing this. Make sense? Okay, makes sense. All right. Okay, so now that we understand and we know that I'm going to be asking questions and following it up with answers, now that we understand these things, let's move into how this series is going to be geared towards. So yes, I just told you that understanding how we used to do things is the basics that you need to know to understand why we do things today. Okay? I will be diving into the history of tuning, how we used to do things in the analog days versus how we do things today in the digital world. So that is going to be an episode in and of itself. Moving forward, what kind of tools are we going to need to be able to be effective in doing this? Okay, one, you're going to need a good computer. That's very, very key, very, very important. Now, we need to kind of pump the brakes just a little bit. We need to understand what the equipment is, the different types of tuners, and what pertains to our situation. Okay? So, let's start things off simple. Let's just start things off with an OBD2 scan tool. Okay? I've got one right here. This is a older one that a friend of mine gave me a long time ago. But it still works. I mean, if it ain't broke, should you fix it? So anyway, this is a old Craftsman OBD2 scan tool. You see the OBD2 port. By the way, it's what the end of an OBD2 port looks like. Okay. Anyway, so this is a scan tool. Now, this is your basic scan tool. This will read any vehicle. Listen to what I am telling you. This will read any vehicle. This will not write an ECM. It will read an ECM. It will read the data coming off of an ECM. It will read your DTCs or your fault codes. Okay, your check engine fault codes. It will read those. It will erase those. It will erase your DTCs. But that's about all you can do with this. You can look, but you can't touch. That's a scan tool. Okay? We can look, but we can't touch. This is pretty handy to have around if you got a buddy who says, hey, my check engine light came on in my car. Could you take a look at it real quick for me? This is kind of what this is real good for. Our tuning equipment is really made for specific reasons. We have special tools in everything that we do, and any type of scan tool, tuner, or equipment to support our tuners and scan tools, it's special equipment and it's expensive. But you can pick one of these up pretty cheap, about $100 at any parts store. Like I said, this one was given to me. I got good friends. So anyway, this scan tool. Moving on. We need to be able to interact and read and write our ECM. So there are many different platforms in which we can do this. We can do this via scan tools like SCT, Banks, several others. Those are just some that I can think off the top of my head. You can buy them with basic over-the-counter more than stock, but they call them performance tunes in them, and they will rewrite your ECM. But understand that when you rewrite that ECM with the tune that comes off of that scanner, like I said, like a SCT or a Banks or something like that, you can't take that same tool and go tune your buddy's car with it. You have to unlock the scanner. Okay, you have to unlock this scanner from your car before you can use it on somebody else's. That's what I'm getting at. Okay, and so this is what we call our plug and play programmers. Okay, that's why you'll hear them referred to as programmers, because that's what they are. They're programmers. You can't really do anything with them outside of your vehicle, outside of whatever vehicle it's locked to. So you have those types as well. So there's that. So as we progress into different types of tuners or interfaces, if you will, now we start to talk about, now we're starting to get into that realm of the dreaded, $15,000 Snap-on computer, and I know this mechanic Joe Schmo, and he's got this computer, and it can do this, and it can do that, and it can. Fair enough, it can. And it can do everything that our stuff does. The things that I use, it can do those things. In fact, it could probably do it a little bit better. But I really don't think so. Not in my experience. So, moving forward, keeping going here. We have to figure out a tuning platform. Now, the different platforms that are out there, you've got HP tuners, you've got Holley EFI, you've got, I think Edelbrock has one out there too. Holley has several. The point is, you understand what I'm saying. So there's different platforms that we can use, and depending on the vehicles that you like tuning, or that you're working on, and what you intend to do with it, okay, and what your budget is, it really plays a lot of factors into what platforms you're going to use. I can make suggestions to you, but at the end of the day, you got to decide what's best for you. I use HP tuners. Now, I came across HP tuners throughout my research because I was looking, if I was going to spend the money for a tuner, I mean, let's be real here. Tuners are expensive. Okay, these tools we're talking about are not cheap. They're not. So, I was looking for something that was going to allow me to tune my pickup truck. I have a 06 Z71. I have a couple of videos of it, but we are going to be doing a video, an up-to-date video on that truck coming soon. But this is why I bought this equipment, is because I had to be able to tune my truck. The area that I live in, it's not a very populated place, and people around here really, they know about it, they know you need to do it, but a lot of them don't know how to do it. So finding somebody that can tune around here is a bit of a nightmare. And so finally I just gave up and I went and got my own. So in my research, I found, for me, in my budget, in my situation, I found that HP tuners was the most affordable. Now, that being said, because I did my research before I purchased, before I did something, because I'm asking why. Why do I want to buy HP tuners? Why do I want to buy Holley EFI? Why do I want to buy this? Ask why. So in asking why again, that's how I settled on HP tuners. Now, in the midst of that research, I discovered that my Gen 3 06 Z71 utilizes the infamous P59 ECM. Okay, and in my research, I found that a lot of people talked about how they that they were real easy to brick, that you could really mess them up. And if you did mess one up, that you were gonna hope and pray that you could be able to bench tune it, meaning remove the ECM completely out of the vehicle and tune it on a bench. And if you couldn't do that, well, then your ECM was just foobarred. And so that led me into trying to figure out, okay, well, do they make bench tuning kits? This is something that I may need. How serious is this going to be? So I went down that rabbit hole. And then going down that rabbit hole, I discovered Bench Force. So Bench Force makes some really, really, really nice equipment. I'm actually really impressed with it. But and they have their professional line. That's what I would call it, where you can buy basically everything you would ever need to, bench tune basically almost any ECM, and that'll cost you a pretty penny. Or they've just recently come out with these enthusiast kits, and I bought an enthusiast kit. It comes with a power block. Okay, we'll get into the power cord here in a second, but so we have a CAN bus switch on it. Okay, we have a CAN bus switch. All right, and then we have just regular ignition switch. And then we have off. Okay, the reason I like Bench Force is the same reason I like HP tuners. In this particular case with Bench Force, I was able to buy a nice quality manufactured, okay, pigtail and port reader, okay, for my ECM. And so I was able to purchase what I needed, okay, what I needed to get the job done. But I have the option, okay, so if my buddy comes over and his ECM's messed up or his won't read or whatever the case is, he's got a different ECM, no problem. I can go to Bench Force and order a cable that'll work with his. Pretty easy. So my point is I have the option to expand. Now, the power cable on it, okay, I'm going to tell you something. I bought my Bench Force system on eBay. I did buy it through I did buy it through a U.S. American speed shop. It was the kit. It was exactly the same thing that you can go to Bench Force and go buy. I mean, it was the kit. But it was a speed shop, and I thought, support, small local businesses, 2 for one bird, so I bought it from them. However, when I got it, it did not come with instructions. And when I got the power cord out, I went, ooh boy. Because I thought that your power box, okay, I thought that your power box had to be plugged into a standard household outlet to get power. And so when I got the power cord and this is what I got. Now, I will say that the sheathing on this wiring did run all the way up to the end of the wire. I trimmed this back and modified this cord to fit my application. Okay. But here's why I'm saying, well, it didn't come with instructions. This is why I'm telling you. Again, I thought that I was going to have to try to figure out a way to rig this with some kind of whatever. I'm not very inclined with electro-digital stuff. Okay. Anyway, I thought I was going to have to Frankenstein some stuff together to make it all work. Come to find out, nope. Put your car battery out of your car. You know, black to ground, red to positive. And then plug this into there. And that's how you get your power. Now, how genius is that? And I thought to myself, well, if they're going to make a cable like that, they should just go ahead and make the cable and put alligator clips on it. That, you know, that would be nice. But then I realized why they didn't. And I think that's pretty cool. They didn't, and the reason this cord exists and why it is the way that it is because they built their equipment where you could take it out into the field. So, you know, your buddy's got a truck he's trying to restore or whatever, what have you, you know, but his truck's out in the middle of a field and you're working on it in the middle of a field, not in a shop where you have power around you. Well, you can still take your bench force out into the field with you, hook it to the car battery, and still be able to bench tune your buddy's ECM. Okay? So this is a vital piece of equipment that you're going to need. Let's get into the HP tuners. Now, I am still kind of new to YouTube. I'm trying to figure things out, and maybe somewhere in this video, while I'm leaving this note to myself, I will put some screenshots up of, you know, of how this works. Maybe see if I can even do a screen share inside the video and upload. I don't know, but just kind of show you how the programming in the laptop works. Okay, now a writable programmer tuner, okay, is going to comprise of a couple of things. One, you're going to need some type of interface. Now the interface could be like this, where everything is self-contained. It could be like your $15,000 Snap-on one, where it looks a lot like this one, you know, and, you know, it's just got a really big fancy screen on it. Okay, but you're going to have an interface. Obviously, it's going to have some type of operating software to go with it. And you are inevitably, and here we go with HP tuners, just like with bench force. The reason why I went with HP tuners is because I can buy the licenses for my vehicle flat out, and then I can rewrite my own vehicle as many times as I want. But let's talk about your buddy that you go down to the bingo hall with, okay, on Friday nights, but you tell the wife that you're going down there for Bible study. Yeah, I know who you is. Anywho's, yeah, Joe, I saw you down there last week. Don't even, you tell Sally Sue I said hi, okay? Anyway, moving on. Dang dojo. So, but your buddy, okay, he wants a little bit more pep in his truck, right? Well, you can do it with yours because of this, so you can do it in his because of this. Okay, now that being said, you know, you're going to have to buy the licenses where you can do to his vehicle what you did to your own. Okay, and that's where you tell your buddy, look, I can do this, but you're going to have to come out of pocket a little bit. Okay, now your interface, your tuning platform, all of that means nothing if you don't have a good computer to do this on. Okay, so going from there, you got to have a good computer. I recommend something with an Intel processor or an AMD processor. that seems to be the general consensus view of what's capable of handling tuning vehicles. So keep that in mind when you're computer shopping. Yes, you can buy used computers, online, and there's a couple of people. Goat Rope Garage did a series on cheap computers. So I mean, you can do those things. Just be mindful and understand there are some basic things that you're going to have. You need a computer with a C port, at least one, but two is preferred. Again, we talked about the processors. We talked about the interface and all that. So these are some of the things that you're going to need. Okay. A couple other things that you're going to need. If you don't have one, get one. That is a wideband gauge. And as far as the wideband gauge goes, again, I'm gearing these videos for people that want to, they're working on their own stuff. They're not working on other people's stuff. They're not doing this professionally. So that's what I'm talking about here. And that's kind of the way that I'm doing about this. Sitting here. Brain parts. HP Tuners Interfaces laptop. Oh, gonna need a calculator. How many of y'all did not like math class in school? I didn't raise my hand because I was a nerd. I actually did like math class. But if you didn't like math class, if you have any youngins that are probably around that, 8, 9, 7th, 8th, 9th grade level, you might want to go talk to them and ask them what they do in school, because if you can do that math, then you can do this math. So you need a calculator, because you need to kind of understand what we're looking at mathematically and why we're doing it the way we're doing it.
Well, guys, I think that's going to do it for us here at Nick's All American TV. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I hope I've got your little claws hooked into wanting to learn more about this tuning business. I love you, America. You